Well, every session is a tit for tat. One would hope, this special session, it's a 5-day session. There's been a lot of controversy and speculation that preceded this session where at least the opposition of the mind that the government is trying to, has something up its sleeve. Now, we don't know what might that be, but there's something that they're going to do which is going to be out of the ordinary. So there is a sense of fear, there's speculation, there's controversy. Having said that, the session is also going to, the theme, if one would say, of the session would be 75 years of the Indian Parliament, the journey of the Indian Parliament. And I would reckon, in a way, the India Alliance has decided to honor that as well. The Prime Minister also spoke of it. Let's look forward. It might be a little preposterous for me to say it, especially with what we've seen, how Parliament has gone down in the last recent sessions where there have been complete washouts or the level of debate has really come down. But away from that, let's hope we look forward to some some great debates on the floor of the House. We've seen them before. We hope at least we hear some of that, especially because it's marking such a momentous occasion of 75 years of the journey of the Indian Parliament. Things might not be at their best where parliamentary practice is concerned. It might be a complete washout of the last few sessions, but let's hope at least, both the government and the NDA and the UPA could come together and honor that journey of the Indian Parliament. The latest news break that we are getting the Prime Minister, of course, holding a meeting right before the session begins with senior leaders from the Bharatiya Janata Party, I'm sure, and the NDA in terms of getting together their own strategy. Ashok ji, अपनी strategy, प्रधानमंत्री मिल रहे हैं जो senior leaders हैं अभी, उनकी क्या floor strategy रहेगी इसमें, क्योंकि opposition की अभी meeting खत्म हुई है, तो एक plan उनका भी रहेगा कि ऐसे प्रोसीड करना है अगले 2-3 दिन।
देखिए प्रीति, एक बात तो ये कि प्रधानमंत्री सीनियर मिनिस्टर्स के साथ मीटिंग कर रहे हैं और 10:30 डेली वो मीटिंग होती है सेशन के दौरान। तो उसमें पूरी टीम है प्रधानमंत्री, जिसमें सीनियर मिनिस्टर राजनाथ सिंह है, अमित शाह है, नितिन गडकरी है, पार्लियामेंट्री अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर है, किरण रिजिजू, अनुराग ठाकुर, निर्मला सीतारमण, तमाम जो टीम बनी हुई है सीनियर मिनिस्टर्स की, उनके साथ रेगुलरली वो मीटिंग करते हैं और जो एजेंडा रहने वाला है दोनों हाउस में, पार्लियामेंट में, उसके बारे में चर्चा करते हैं। और आज भी वो बैठक कर रहे हैं क्योंकि 11 बजे से हाउस शुरू हो जाएगा। और क्या रणनीति रहने वाली है, विपक्ष की मीटिंग हुई है, उन्होंने अपनी रणनीति बनाई है, क्योंकि सोनिया गांधी ने एक चिट्ठी लिख करके प्रधानमंत्री को अपना एजेंडा, उन्होंने कहा था कि आप अपना एजेंडा बताएं, और अपना एजेंडा उन्होंने बता दिया था कि 9 पॉइंट का एजेंडा हमारा रहने वाला है। जो मौसमी ने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बताया, उसमें महंगाई, बेरोजगारी, मणिपुर, संघीय ढांचे पे प्रहार की बात हो रही है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट जहां पे उनकी सरकारें नहीं है बीजेपी की, उनको परेशान करने की बातें, तो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं। बीजेपी विपक्ष ने अपना एजेंडा क्लियर कर दिया है और सत्ता पक्ष जो है, प्रधानमंत्री, दोनों हाउस में क्या रहने वाला है, किस ढंग से रणनीति बनानी होगी, उसको लेके हमेशा जब इस हाउस शुरू होता है, संसद की कार्रवाई शुरू होती है, संसद का सत्र होता है, तो वो चर्चा करते हैं हमेशा। और बीच बीच में भी अगर बदले हुए हालात होते हैं, कोई ऐसी विपक्ष की तरफ से कोई रणनीति चेंज होती है, तो ऐसी बैठकें होती है। लेकिन 10:30 बजे सत्र के दौरान हमेशा प्रधानमंत्री ऐसी बैठकें।
All right, so that's what's taking place right now. The Prime Minister is chairing that meet which we just spoke of, strategizing on what would be the Bharatiya Janata Parties and the NDA strategy, the floor strategy in particular. 10 a.m. Was the strategy discussed and chaired by Mallikarjun Kharge, where the India Alliance comes into question. And 11 a.m. is when the session will begin, and the first speaker will be none else but the Prime Minister. How long does he speak, what he touches upon? But mind you, one thing we can safely say, that it will encapsulate Indian Parliament's 75-year-old journey, and what a glorious journey it's been. But having said that, I want to once again cut across to both Maushmi and Ashok ji, who is still with us. Maushmi, what are we expecting? Sonia Gandhi had given her own, which we touched upon. She wants, what the agenda of the Congress needs to be, or will be, at least on the floor of the Parliament. There will be a discussion on Manipur. She wanted to raise communalism. She wanted to talk about unemployment. Will they stick to that? Because somewhere down the line, the Prime Minister, in his opening remarks before the session, also encapsulated, it's a 5-day session. There is a lot of give and take. There can be a lot of rona dhona is what he termed it. All of that can happen later. Maybe come together and mark the glorious journey of the Indian Parliament. Of course, the elephant in the room remains, will there be a surprise element by the government in the next 5 days?
Preeti, I think whatever the Prime Minister said, he gave the indication very clearly in his speech, because there was a hint of sarcasm, or perhaps a lot of sarcasm when he said "bahut ho gaya, rona dhona." Clearly that line was meant to be for the opposition members. But if you see, when he concludes his speech, he says that it's a short session और बहुत ऐतिहासिक फैसले लिए जाएंगे. Now the bills that are mentioned, none of them you would say is completely a game changer. So ऐतिहासिक फैसले, there could be some bills that could be actually historic, and topping that chart is the women reservation bill.
Right.
That's been the baby of the Congress. Dr. Manmohan Singh had brought that bill, passed in the Rajya Sabha, kept in the cold storage since 2010, and will it be brought back, especially after Manipur and what has happened as far as women's safety and security is concerned, as far as the national discourse is concerned? I think BJP thinks that that is a pocket it needs to address, and it's a huge vote bank. Ironically, everybody wants to woo the women voters.
I agree.
But Preeti, nobody wants the women in the parliament
I have a
to be
thing.
represented.
Women voters always the kingmaker, never quite the king.
Yes.
Never actually given their
Queen
share
makers.
of power. Queen makers, king makers,
yes.
anything. King makers in Indian politics. But we'll get down to that discussion later. What's also important to touch upon, other than the fact that the Prime Minister said, let's get together and celebrate 75 years of India's parliament. And there's a lot of, the crying and all of that can go on later. But having said that, what he also said was very important. And I will bring in Ashok ji into this conversation. But first up, you're going to hear what the Prime Minister said. And one needs to underline that this is going to be a session of historic decisions. What will be those historic decisions? That's the big question. Let's play that reaction of the Prime Minister where he addressed the press right before the session began. Interesting. And we're going to talk a bit. What could be that historic decisions that the Prime Minister is actually speaking of? Will it be the women reservations bill? For a journalist, for a political journalist, for a woman who's covered Indian politics, I think the time has come for women reservation in Parliament. No political party, including that of the Bharatiya Janata Party, has ever been able to build consensus on it. We're going to go back into the history of it. But there's also, because if we are going to get into political kite flying, there's also so much else to add to it. Will there be an OBC reservation bill, which will practically upset the apple cart where it comes down to the India Alliance, who's going forth with the caste census and trying to woo the OBC vote?